Good evening. My name is Buffy, recovering perfectionist mama, Grace in Progress podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Glad to have you. I am a women's lifestyle creator on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and I have the same username through all platforms. And so I deal with a lot of women's issues, including issues that are important to women, including motherhood, relationships, marriage, mental health, emotional well-being, leveling up, self-empowerment, self-improvement, fitness, nutrition, spirituality, fitness topics, health topics, some of the newer topics such as the micro gut biome and things like that, cycle syncing, I can never say that correctly. But today we are going to talk about teaching emotional intelligence at home. And I feel like when some of us were coming up that this was not even an idea or anything that was on anyone's radar. And I think that it's amazing that a lot of this stuff is fairly new, and it is literally changing the way that kids can relate to each other. Because back when I grew up, bullying was widespread. And I don't know if a lot of you actually had that same experience through school. And case in point, I was in first grade, and I remember being told by our teacher that if we saw anything bad or that could harm someone, that we should report it to her. So there was a girl who was a year younger than me, so she would have been in kindergarten, who was climbing on the bathroom toilet. And I remember going to my teacher and I was like, Miss Alexander, there's a girl that's climbing on the toilet and she's going to fall and she's going to hurt herself. Now, this wasn't me tattling because I was a tattletale or because I wanted to get the girl in trouble. I was one of those kids at an early age that as an only child, I was more like an adult. So I wanted to protect this girl and make sure that she didn't fall and bust her head or any other number of, dangerous things that could happen. And it was around Valentine's Day because our teacher just came back from maternity leave. And so we had an extended recess. Well, everyone except for me, right? I was told that I lost the entire recess because I would learn not to tattle. And you know what that led to? That led to me being afraid to stand up for myself, being afraid to tell a teacher or a trusted adult that someone had done something to me that had harmed me. Because, hey, people don't like tattletales. So we have to be really careful about what we teach our kids. And I know that you guys as mothers are always looking out for your kids, as am I. And I just think that there's certain things that didn't translate well over the years. And I think tattling was probably one of them, especially when the child is trying to do what the teacher has told them to do and then gets in trouble for doing that. Needless to say, she was actually my least favorite teacher. I'm sure you can imagine why. So we are going to talk about emotional intelligence today. And so I just want to say, it's like, imagine a home where meltdowns turn into meaningful conversations and where your kids learn to name their feelings instead of acting them out. For instance, we don't want our kids acting out anger by punching their sibling or hitting them or tripping them or any other number of physical things that are clearly not necessary. That's the power of emotional intelligence, EQ. And it starts right where you are. In today's episode, we'll explore practical ways to nurture emotional intelligence in your children and yourself so you can raise compassionate, resilient humans. Grab a cup of tea and settle in for a deep dive into daily habits that build emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence matters. I know some people may think that emotional intelligence is just a bunch of woo-woo, as they might call it. However, though, I think that raising people who are compassionate and helpful and are almost healers in a way, rather than bullies and people who are angry with others and try to harm them and, essentially make their lives miserable. That's not the life that we want for our children or for future generations. So emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions, and to recognize and influence the emotions of others. I don't know that I like the word influence, but I get what they're trying to say. Maybe assist in the emotions rather than influence. And research highlights here, studies show that emotional intelligence predicts long-term happiness and success even more than IQ. So when people say, I'm not just concerned about my children growing up to be like the smartest kid in the room, I want them to be the most compassionate child. I want them to be the child who other kids can go to, like when they're feeling down, they're feeling sad, who will stand up for them and give them love and encouragement. And I try to instill that in my children. I'm hoping that hopefully it'll take hold, because I was the child growing up as an only child who never moved elementary schools, never moved middle schools, never moved high schools. I went to one school, through its end, and then went to another and then another. But I was always the one who would welcome the new students, because it terrified me to think that I would have to move schools. And so I was always afraid that I would be the new kid, and I wanted to show them the compassion that I would want shown to me if I were the new kid and didn't know anyone. And so I try to talk to my children a lot about putting themselves in the place of others, because I think that that is extremely important. It's like we're never going to truly know another person's experience, but we can try to open ourselves up to that and be open to that. And there's a family ripple effect. Kids with high emotional intelligence tend to form stronger friendships, handle stress better, and show more empathy. And empathy is important. I know a lot of people, or there are some people that don't believe that empathy is anything, but there's a lot. I mean, empathy is definitely makes things more comfortable, especially when people are struggling. And empathy is just the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and just try to understand what they may be going through, what they may be feeling. So, modeling self-awareness and regulation. We need to be the mirror for our children. Children learn to handle their feelings by watching how we handle ours. And ultimately, I'll be completely honest here and completely transparent. I am a person who experiences things strongly. I am a person who can tend to be emotional at times. And sometimes it is difficult to try to maintain a brave face and try to work through things in a good way, especially if it's something that, you've struggled with for a period of time. And full disclosure, I'm actually a trauma survivor, so I know that some of that has to do with how I handle certain things. And I don't know if any of you fit into that category as well, but I think certain things change based on our life experiences, and certain things are more difficult for others than are for some other people as well. So also another practical strategy is to narrate in real time. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to take a few deep breaths before I respond. And I think the stop and pause is so powerful. I've been able to utilize that in certain situations, especially if I can literally kind of have a self-talk with myself and try to calm myself down because I oftentimes just get a little bit more overwhelmed than I should about certain instances. And I think a lot of it's just kind of having an issue with, making a mistake sometimes, or just feeling like, oh my goodness, this is just gonna get out of control. And, sometimes your mind just races with you. And that's a scenario where, it can be really difficult to try to kind of talk yourself back down. And also, having that honest conversation with your kids, mom is not always going to be perfect. Mom is going to make some mistakes. Mom can tend to be emotional. I'm proof that we're not always perfect, and that we need to continue to work and grow and to get better each day, 1% each day. And also talking about calming tools. Share simple practices like breathing, short walks, or a 2-minute pause to reset. And the benefit is you're normalizing emotions. There's been a lot of talk recently about how earlier generations were taught that men were supposed to be the strong, silent type. So if they displayed any sort of emotion, that was against the grain. That was not something that was normal at that time, and to see a man cry was completely unheard of in some cases. I remember one of the first times that I saw my grandfather cry, I was just shocked, it was such a different thing. But, ultimately, I respect my grandfather for that, because at the time it was a scenario where, it made me have a lot of respect for him. And he taught me some strategies about emotional intelligence. He taught me some strategies about, certain, how to help yourself handle certain situations like sadness. He actually taught me, sometimes going for a drive and clearing your mind is the best thing in the world, right? Listening to music and just kind of just experiencing it and letting it pass over you and pass through you. And to demonstrate that feelings aren't dangerous, right? They're signals. They're signals that something is wrong, that we're not where we want to be. We still have some work to process through, and that it's going to be okay. Pushing those feelings down, shoving them down, that does nothing for anyone. Naming and validating feelings. It's building a vocabulary. You can use a feelings chart. I'm sure you can find one online there on the fridge, or flashcards with expressions. We did that with some of our younger kids. And also a story time game. While reading bedtime stories, ask, what do you think that character is feeling? How can you tell? And that way, that shows that they're looking at facial expressions. They're looking at words, and they're looking at, nonverbal cues, and that they're learning, and they're going to be able to discern certain times when someone is sad, so that maybe they can provide that comfort, or they can be that friend to reach out to them. And it works because children feel seen and learn that all emotions, even tough ones, are okay. And they need to learn that, because life is we're not always going to be happy, and that's okay. We're not always going to be sad, or we're not always going to be mad either. So that's on the flip side of the coin, that's good too. And also teaching empathy through listening. Active listening steps. The eye contact, the gentle tone, the reflecting back what you hear. It sounds like you felt left out at recess. Just kind of mirroring what they're saying, so that they know that you're actually listening to them. You're not just saying, Family practice. Weekly sharing circle. I love this idea. Where everyone shares a high and a low from their day, which is great, because that way you're utilizing the feeling that it's not just the high days that matter, but the low part of the day matters too. What can we do to help you get through that? What do you think could have potentially changed that? Is there anything that maybe would keep you from having to experience that again? And it strengthens and models respectful communication, which is extremely important, because children are going to have respectful communication. So there is problem solving. There's a really accessible 4-step model, and it's identifying the feeling initially, and then brainstorming solutions together. How do you think that we could fix this next time? What are some things that you could do instead than feeling like this? And then come up with a plan, and then reflect afterwards to see if that plan actually worked. So therefore, they're learning that problem solving as well, and it kind of goes hand in hand with trying to express the feelings and then figure out a good plan, so potentially they know what to do next time, or they can potentially avoid that situation, such as feeling left out or whatever it may be. Example, you're frustrated, your sister has the toy. What can we try? Wait your turn or trade toys? So then you kind of give the option, rather than saying, you're going to wait your turn or you're going to trade toys, So you're giving them an option, and you're also building in some critical thinking, some problem solving, some skills that they are ultimately going to use in the future. And then the outcome builds resilience and confidence in managing challenges, rather than shrinking away from challenges and just kind of being Chicken Little, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And then everyday emotional intelligence habits for the whole family. Daily check-ins. Around the dinner table, how many people still do around the dinner table? Share one thing you're grateful for and one challenge for that particular day. Emotion jars. Kids draw a face representing the mood and drop it in the jar. This helps nonverbal kids express their feelings, especially kids with autism or such, or other medical things. And then model repair. When you lose your cool, say, I yelled earlier. I'm sorry, I felt stressed, but that's not your fault, because you don't want children developing the idea that you're mad because of something that they did, that they are responsible for adult actions and adults' reactions. That is something that I grew up in my household, and I literally it caused me to take on a lot of stuff that was not belonging to me, did not belong to me. And to this day, I find myself with the urge, and I do a lot of the times, take on things that do not belong to me. Just because I just want people to be happy. I want people to feel loved. And that is a big one for me, because I think it's really important that people have love and feel love, and so that is one of the things that I try to do, and sometimes maybe overdo in some ways. And then also, it's also that using simple words and focusing on emotions. That is really important. And with school age kids, you can encourage journaling or empathy games. And then tweens and teens, practice reflective conversations and coping strategies together. It's like it kind of progresses as they go along. So to summarize, our key takeaway is small, consistent moments matter more than one big talk. Because one big talk is just a one-time shot in the pan, right? But if we're consistent and we're showing them, especially when we see that they're struggling with emotions, maybe they're struggling with anger, maybe they're struggling with frustration, they're struggling with overwhelm, we can actually pare the lessons down into bite-sized things that they will understand and that they will remember. I think another important thing too is to let your kids know that there's nothing that they can't talk to you about. There's nothing that is going to make you not love them or make it that you're not going to want to talk to them. That the door is always open. If there's something that's upsetting them and frustrating them, you want to be their point of contact. And I think that, sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, mom, okay, whatever, right? But it has worked really well with me because my oldest son and I, we do have that open door of communication. Do I always agree with him? No. Does he always agree with me? No. But there have been moments where he said, I feel like no one understands what I'm going through right now, Mom, but you. Because you've gone through this particular thing. You understand what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, and where I'm at. And you make me feel like it's normal, like what's going on is normal. And what he's experiencing is completely normal. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be intentional. Every calm breath, every validating phrase plants seeds of emotional intelligence that last a lifetime. And you're building a legacy. Your family is building a legacy through you. And you're doing what you need to do for your children that probably wasn't done many years ago when we all were going through that round. So thank you for joining me today. Let's raise a generation that leads with empathy and awareness, one small moment at a time. Big feelings don't lead to chaos. This episode gives you actionable strategies to raise kids who are empathetic, resilient, and emotionally aware, starting today. Listen now and try one emotionally intelligent practice with your family tonight. Tag me or share a note about how it went. I'd love to hear your wins. I am recovering_perfectionist_mama at Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, whichever you want to share, or you can even share to the podcast. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.